All right. So we are going to get going this morning. I shouldn't start a recording with we're going to get going this morning, and we're here on September 17th, kind of halfway through the month of September already. And one of the things that we wanted to do as part of our Women Build2Scale Webinar Series was to have a webinar specifically focused to help us get organized for the fall. And so we called it Fired Up with Focus. And it's all about, just having a conversation about action and accountability to not only get things done this fall, but to get them done in a fulfilling way, get them done and feel good about it, right? How do you mark off, get things off your list and actually feel good about it when you're doing it? And so where we're going to start is just by planting a question that I'd love you guys to think about. You might even want to write it down before I even introduce my co-facilitator today. So my question is, where do you want to be by December 31st, 2019? And in one word, how do you want to feel on December 31st, 2019? One word, how do you want to feel? Because here's the one thing we know for sure. Regardless of what we do in the next 90 days, the next 90 days are going to come and go. We know that December 31st is going to be here. So before we know it, for most of us, right? In a blink of an eye. And will we be where we'd like to be and where we feel how we want to feel in those 90 days? So that's our goal today, is to have a conversation for just under an hour and to not only inspire you, because women's movements are great at inspiring, but we actually want you to feel really empowered and motivated and full of possibility of what you're actually going to do to make this reality. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my co-facilitator today. And I apologize, I forgot one really important thing when I started our webinar today, and I forgot to mute everyone upon entry. So here we go. I'm just going to keep doing that. We will have a time, if I talk fast enough, that I'm going to unmute you to ask and contribute today. So that's why I'm talking quickly. Linda Allen-Hardisty is up in our top left corner, and she is an amazing woman from Saskatchewan that I have the pleasure of working closely with. She's a colleague, I want to say, I almost said a comrade. I feel like I should say a comrade. And I'm so, I'm so proud to work closely with Linda in a number of ways. And we're getting hyped up about an accelerator that we've got coming up in a week. And she's a part of it because I wanted to create a company that allowed me to hang out and do cool things with cool women. And that's basically what PowHERhouse is. A little bit about Linda. She has built a reputation as a vibrant and contemporary voice in the business world. And she's done that by blending her grounding in the field of organizational effectiveness, so the right person for us today, with a practical approach to problem solving based on professional real world experience. So over a 15-year career, she's an experienced leader, and she also works with leaders in a variety of ways. And I'm going to let her tell you a bit more about that. But she basically, if you boil it right down, she helps organizations and leaders enhance the effectiveness of themselves and their teams. So who better than to be with us today than Linda? So thank you, Linda, for spending an hour with us today and sharing some of your thoughts and having a conversation with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me. It's a very exciting topic.
I'm wondering if you would like to elaborate just a little on my bio, because I left out a few pieces. So maybe before we dig into our first question, do you want to chat a little bit more about that?
And just in this moment, I highly recommend that everybody get Charlene or someone to read your bio out loud like that and just sit there and listen to it.
And kind of go, oh, that's me. Yeah. I'm happy to do that for any of you, just anytime.
Hey, yeah. I encourage you to take her up on that. I've been working with Charlene now since the spring as an Amplify participant, which has really helped me really move forward on a few things I wanted to achieve. I live here in Regina, Saskatchewan, and I work with business owners and CEOs and other business leaders, mainly here in Saskatchewan, but sometimes outside of the province as well. I've had my own private practice now for about 12 years, and before that I was in 2 different organizations and different leadership roles. So every day is different for me, and it depends on the leader that I'm working with. I started off doing a lot of organizational development consulting projects like org design, strategy, change management, and I find now about 95% of my work is with that CEO, that business owner, business leaders, and their teams. That's where I'm spending a lot of my time, and it's ups my game every day. It's incredibly rewarding, intense, purposeful work.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll pick on Linda for just a second because, sometimes we have those conversations with people, do I need a coach, or do I need someone to be accountable to? And as someone who is a former competitive athlete and a coach of competitive athletes, there's a reason why competitive athletes have coaches and surround themselves with the very best people. And then for some reason, like, we transfer that over to the business world or the professional world, and we don't think that's necessary. So I'll just, I know Linda's a huge tennis fan, and our young rock star, Bianca, do you think maybe she has a coach or 2? And has had people around her supporting her through this whole leg of the journey. So yeah, your thoughts about that transfer from, from one.
I'm glad you brought that up. She's very intentional that she didn't do this on her own. She had the physical and the sport and the athletic coach, but she's talking so openly about the visualization, the meditation, the mental work, everything within her own, all that inner conversation that would have come out in coaching type discussions and conversations. And I'm loving the social media path and hearing people talk about visualization and meditation like it's cool now. So I'm glad she's done that, because I think she's kind of maybe giving people a bit of freedom to think, oh, maybe this isn't just fluffy, soft stuff. Maybe this is the difference between achieving what you want and not achieving everything that maybe you could.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just said that was off the cuff, but I had to throw it in there. So I just wanted to kick off with our first question, and that is just a little bit of an opportunity to talk some tactics this morning. So the question is, I'm going to read it so I don't screw it up. Linda, what do you do? What are your tactics in terms of finding and keeping a good rhythm to stay focused and at the top of your game? So whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, how do you personally find and keep a good rhythm and a sustainable rhythm?
Well, I think I'll share the approach to my work and my day and how I do that. And so the style I've developed for myself, and it's changed over the years. I always start with the bigger picture, the end in mind, but I try to really keep that high level. And I always think in terms of 3 categories: business, personal, and health. That is actually something that we use with TEC Canada, the executive committee, when I chair those meetings. So just want to acknowledge that's where I got that from, was the training, but it really, really works. If I expect my tech members to do it, I do it too. And I found that it works. So I really get clear on that. And then I actually jump right to the day. Every day I do start my morning with some sort of regular routine. And for me, it's getting up early enough that I could read the Globe and Mail, have a coffee, feed my dogs, get them out to do their business before I go to the gym or whatever. So I can't remember the person who said this quote. Maybe someone here will know, but he said, win the first hour of the day and win the day. And that has really served me well. I do emails in the morning at that time, but I try not to get too deep in it because I want to kind of get in the zone of what I set myself up with. And then at the end of the day in the evening, I set my next morning up. So if I've got 4 coaching clients, I make sure I'm prepped and organized for them. If I'm going to the gym, I'll have my bags packed. I like to get that good night's sleep. So when I get up in the morning for that routine, I'm not rushed. But that's an accountability I really try to keep with myself because I know it works. And the more and more research you read, it even says you should get up at the same time every morning, whatever that is for you, to keep that. And then on a weekly basis, I do review my week ahead of time. And I'm starting to get more in the practice of what went well this past week, business, personal, and health, that I was really happy with. And even just saying that to myself just helps me plan the next week. You know, if I, if there was something that was off my ideal action, which I think something we can all relate to is maybe I didn't follow the right diet I wanted. Tomorrow's a new day. The sun rises the next day. So what's the plan for the rest of the week? So so I'll just pause there, Charlene. Is that kind of a bit of the thing you were?
I'd love to dig a little deeper into a couple of those with you. 2 things that really stood out to me, and then I'm going to ask you guys to think of your own questions for Linda on this particular part, and we'll utilize the chat as well. 2 things that jumped out to me, Lynn, was about you talked about jumping into emails first thing, but only at a little level, because you want to save yourself to get into the zone as quickly as possible. Wondered if you could just chat a little bit more about what getting into the zone looks and feels like for you, like what that kind of entails for you.
I think I have that built around the nature of work that I do. Most of my time is coaching other people. So I don't want to get wrapped up in something that needs more work that I'm going to be thinking about while I'm in my 10 o'clock coaching session. So I might scan the email. Like today I scanned the email and there's someone in there replied, I want to connect with her, but I don't need to do that right now. Yeah, I'll open that up later. So I think it really depends on what people are going to work to do or how they're planning to spend the morning. So whatever getting into that zone looks like for you, if I'm coaching 3 people in the morning, I have to be really present and clear with my own stuff out so I can really be with you. So, and I just know myself, that's, if I get into something that's going to be hard to pack away, I try not to do that. And same thing with social media. I try not to do that first thing in the morning.
So if we wanted a really tangible takeaway, would it be fair to say that, do what you need to do to clear the space? And then that's it. Like, do whatever you need to do to clear the space, headspace, whatever that is for you. Because I do the same thing without diving too deep.
Right.
Okay. The other piece
I actually know other people who like to do that. Who get up at 5 a.m. and their calendar at work from 7 to 9 is for nobody but them. And then they dig in deep. But that works for them. So I like what you just said. You got to find something that's going to get you where you need to be for that day.
What about the evening prep? I was curious about that. I like that a lot. I used to have fitness clients, years ago, that what worked for them was to set out their workout clothes and their shoes and their gym bag, like every single night, like, right, so they literally had to trip over it. So I do believe in that, that evening prep. And I wondered if there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
Well, I'm not quite that literal with the bag by the door, but I do kind of set out, some things, so it's not not a mad rush. I look at the calendar of what I have to do for my business the next day. And I like that organized and prepped before I close my eyes at night. I feel I can sleep well and I don't have to worry about getting up in a panic to do it. And I've really, I take the work that I do with coaching clients or tech members really seriously. So I think getting that really prepared and not fly by the seat of my pants the next morning. And I've just learned that. And I have to catch myself too, because I love what I do so much. I don't want to spend 4 hours every night, and I could. So I'm trying to get a bit more disciplined that, I'll have supper with my husband at a certain time, and then maybe I'll spend 45 minutes in my office getting things organized. But there's a bit of self-discipline there too, because there's a bigger picture of my personal life too. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that for me, that evening prep, it just is, it's about, I glance at my day, the next day, and I want to see the flow. I just want to see how the day is going to flow. And I kind of put that intention into it. So I just want to have a look and, that's the flow of my day. I remember now, I
was just looking on Facebook. I don't know why I didn't see this before, but Katerina Skoropad, Dennis pulled wisdom teeth September 5th, she says.
Sorry, I'm just going to mute that.
I think someone's not muted.
Yeah, got it.
Looks like sounding like someone's getting a bit of dental work.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So what I wanted to just offer before we jump into the next question is back to December 31st. You've set the experience that your one word, like how you want to feel by December 31st. I'm actually going to share with you a couple of things. And I'm going to invite you to write down on a piece of paper beside you the words. At the top, you can write down the word annual or annually. And then below that, I'm just going to go down the list, quarterly. Below that, monthly. Below that, weekly. And below that, daily. I'm just going to share a few thoughts about rhythm with you that I hope if one thing lands for you, then it's a win for me. When I think about annual, I do something special at the beginning and end of every year, and it can be, what's the theme that I'm looking for in the next year? What's the experience I want to experience in one word for 2020, let's say? What's my destination for 2020? Maybe that's easier for you to think about it that way. Again, back to where do I want to get to? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? However it makes sense for you. And I do, a little rhythm. I do a little ritual to find that those annual answers. On a quarterly basis, I actually created a few years ago a tool, and I'm happy to share it with anybody. You can just ask me for it. Hopefully you can see that. It again follows an athletic principle of periodization. And I think it's something that it's important to touch on for women, because for some reason we think that we can go at 100% and be absolutely perfect in every single area of our lives. And that's just not realistic. As athletes, you actually scope out your training to focus on different things in different quarters. Throughout your year, you have different competition seasons. And then sometimes you have an off season, then you have a preseason, then you have a rest. So they very much practice the principle of periodization, which just means that, for everything there is a season. So how I took that into leadership was I broke it into quarters. I'm a real quarter person. I'm a real 90-day person. And what I always do, they can change because life happens, but I always, as we're looking at 2020, January to March, what is my top priority for 2020 in the first quarter? What's coming up for me? Is it my business? Is it my health? Is it a book I'm writing? Is it a play that I'm in? Is my daughter got something major going on and it's my family? I focus, what is my key focus for that quarter, where everything else supports that and plays kind of second fiddle just a little bit. Typically April to June, I'll just be honest, my number one priority is always is front and center my health. If I've gone a bit sluggish, or I've really been focusing on business and health is pulled back a bit, I'll push that right up to that. So I'm just going to pause there for a second. And Linda, I'm curious if you do something like this, or in a different way, this kind of this concept on a quarterly basis, or if you have any, and if you don't, if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, I think what this really is a great way for what happens naturally here for me, and maybe this is the part of Canada that we live in, but this is our weather season. And I find that really people just naturally gravitate to, October to December, I would say that would be even starting in September. A lot of people, leaders I'm working with, are really looking at what is it they want to accomplish in the last quarter. Right. And there's something about the coolness in the air, back to fall, even the fact that the trees are going through their own quarterly transformation that kind of kickstarts everybody. Right. So for those of us that spend a lot of time outside, I would think that this just kind of naturally fits into a bit of a circadian rhythm about what's happening. Yeah. Naturally, and they're easier chunks. It can be daunting to write out, huge, big, lofty goals over 1 year. Well, this is a great way to kind of break it down and set everyone up for a little bit more success and clarity. And I like what you said. For you, you've got one season, one quarter that's about the physical part of you, your health. And I also like what you say is we don't have to keep, hardcore focused on all the balls in the air all the time. When is that off season? It's a great sports analogy. Just like when you're on a plane, you got to put on your oxygen mask before you can help somebody else. So an off season, or focusing on something other than work related, is still purposeful and intentional, because you still need to put gas in your tank. Yeah, that's an activity.
So if we took it from there down to from quarterly, and we used some sort of tool like that, we took it to monthly. The only thing I do monthly is honestly, I still have whether it's a Google Calendar or a hard copy of a calendar, I'm still a daytimer fan, especially for monthly. And I just spend a bit of time at the beginning and end of each month, and just, what's coming up for me this month, a month at a glance, and how did the last month go? Something I learned from a friend of mine, Julia Chung. I don't celebrate enough wins. So, pausing at the beginning of a new month to actually be like, woohoo, for myself, for my team, for the women I work with, what were the wins from the last month that slipped by because you're so focused on the next month coming up, right?
This might be a great time to insert the word accountability. Like, celebrating your success and your wins is an example of your accountability to yourself.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huge. Weekly, I just take that calendar thing a little bit further, and I'm curious just by I guess I can't see everyone, but I'm curious how many people here use a Google Calendar or an online calendar. And on my weekly planning is like, like Linda, it happens on a a Sunday morning or a Sunday night. I take a look at the week coming up, and I make sure my top 3 priorities are scheduled in for that whole week. And for me, that's what are my key meetings? Where are my workouts? When am I training? And where am I horseback riding? Like where's my joy? Like, and those are booked in, right?
So you put in the whole person, like everything that you need that week.
Yeah.
I do have one tech member. She orders every year the Stephen Covey calendar pages that you just insert into your Covey binder. So everything is handwritten. She does not do Google iCalendar. No, everything is written in. And for her, that's her system. It works.
Yeah. I think there's something powerful about doing a bit of writing and committing, the practice. And I just wanted to just say one thing about breaking it from weekly to daily. Whatever your weekly is, getting your priorities in. It's a lot of women that I give a hard time, and we're talking priorities for the quarter, and then I'm like, hey, can you shoot me your Google Calendar? I'd like to just see it for a minute. Let's make sure that those priorities are actually booked in. Are they color coded for me? Like, can I see quickly and clearly the top 3 priorities for the quarter that you've just told me about? How are they actually showing up in your calendar? Oh, that's interesting. I actually can't see your training time. Am I missing it? Right?
Yeah.
And where I've just heard that health is their number 1 priority, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah. So I'm going to break it down to daily just for a sec. And that's 2 things that I've really been practicing. And one is the idea of sprints. And I know I'm going to ask Lynn in a second here, but just I personally, I use sprints in my work where I'll work quite focused for 2 or 3 hours, and then I take a break. So I sprint hard, and then I take a break. I sprint hard, and then I take a break. And I know with dogs, like that kind of happens naturally, because dogs force you to have to take little breaks during your day right? Like you take them out, take them for a walk, move your body a little.
Yeah, and I think that's really important if you're having to do a sprint or you're focusing on something that you really don't like to do, but you have to. And we all have those things that it's a part of our job or our daily life that we don't like. Go hard and then take a short little break of something you love. Yeah. And then go back. Because I think that works well for things that really, we all have things in our day that if we could delegate it to someone else, we probably would, but we can't always do that. Yeah.
Little chunks, like just little chunks. Anything's doable if you break it down enough, right?
Yes.
And the last thing I've just started doing in the last couple of months, and I'm just going to mention it because it's working like a charm for me, is there's one of my very good friends and a woman that I work with in PowHERhouse. We actually use an app, and every morning we type to each other just our top 3 priorities for the day.
Oh, wow.
And then every night we just do a quick check-in, really quick, just by message. We don't talk to each other, and just verbally confirm that we got those top 3 things done.
You're each other's accountability buddy.
Yes, to the nth degree, on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And it's really interesting to watch. Not only it's great connection without being intrusive, but I kind of love knowing like what our top 3 are for today. And they're usually, to be honest, they're not like, oh, I need to write this report and that report, call this. They're like, I'm committing to make sure I eat well today. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to drink water. I'm going to do my workout. I'm going to practice my keynote talk. I'm going to, no. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I think that's accountability though. And what I'm also hearing from you is there are probably times where you don't achieve what you put out to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah.
But she's there to listen to you or to read your text in that moment. And that's another example of accountability, is that someone's listening to you. Be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's just holding space that wants me to. It's part of what I was mentioning about we're getting things done. Are we getting them done in as fulfilling a way as like that? It's actually fun in the process of getting things done, right?
Yes, fun and yeah.
All right, I'm going to go on to our second question, and that is. When you are prioritizing your time and energy. So it's a question about priorities, actually. So you're prioritizing your time and energy for a certain period, right? What do you do to keep, what do you keep top of mind to stay focused and effective? So it's a question for me around priorities. I find that a lot of women have, and leaders, I'm not just going to pick on women, but a lot of women have a ton of stuff on their plate, and it's all important, right? It's everything's pulling at us.
Yeah.
What do you keep top of mind to discern priorities and to just methodically either like get rid of some of them if you can, or like what's some of your strategies around knowing how to prioritize well?
I'll ask myself, what is it on this list that could be deferred to tomorrow or another time? And that I find can be really helpful if it involves other people. That sense, does it need to be done now? Is there something that would be better or different if we waited? And the other question I'll often ask myself, am I going to do this right now first because I like it? I don't know.
Right.
I get the best organization and cleaning done in my office on days where I have 3 things that need to get done. And cleaning the office is not one of them. But boy, that recycling's out and all this stuff. And then, kind of being honest with yourself about that. But, and then and it's finding a balance between what is it that has to get done that I'm not as jazzed about. Maybe I can do something after that does kind of jazz me up a little bit that I like to. Those are kind of 3 questions that I often ask. And that's also a bit of managing email. Just because you got an email from somebody doesn't make it a priority. And just because they sent it to you, that doesn't necessarily mean they expect you to answer right away or to do it right away. And if they have that, then you might want to clarify that. That's another good question on email. I'll talk about what's our timeline, what's our window, and then get clear on what that is. So, we have to manage that. We have to help manage that expectation with other people as well. Same thing with the text message. And when you open up your text message, it will show red. Right. So what's that expectation it leaves with the other person? So, I think being clear, are you leading the ownership of your time and prioritization, or are you letting other people dictate it and you're following it? So ask yourself, do you want to lead the decision on priority, or do you want to follow it? I think that's a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think I love where you went with that, because I probably wouldn't have thought of that, but I do agree. Like, you teach people how you want them to interact with you.
They will get used to how you want to work with them.
Yeah.
They will. And you in turn need to ask them how you can best it's more of a conversation and negotiation sometimes than people think.
Yeah.
Does it really have to be done right away? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I've got one girlfriend that I work closely with, and she's a real creative. And and I'm such a Virgo. Like like when you email me, chances are I'll email shortly back, right? And if you text me,
is that a Virgo thing?
Oh, I don't know. I blame it on Virgo. If you text me, then it must be really important. So, well, my girlfriend, who is amazing, I can email her and it might be days. It might be a few days before I hear back from her. And I'm like, at first I'm like, what's up? But then I started to realize that that is her rhythm. That's how she communicates. And if it's important, then I will text her, and if I really need an answer, I'll call her, or I'll make it very clear that I need, but it goes to show that, it goes to show that we teach people how we want them to interact with us.
And
that's our
think
responsibility.
We have to own the uncomfortableness of that. I think we're victims of our own challenge. I was just having this conversation. This has come up so much lately with women and men that I coach. Anyone on kids who are in a lot of activities. I would say kids are in more activities these days than when I was growing up 40 years ago, like multiple activities. And so at the end of a workday, parents are driving and splitting up and driving 2 or 3 kids to dance, football, hockey, piano. And, one CEO was telling me, yeah, Linda, I had to do a conference call while I was loading my kid in the car, driving the other one to ballet class. I couldn't even concentrate on the car. So I asked him, I said, well, so what do you do for your own activities? What's your activities? What teams are you involved with? Well, I'm not. So do you, are you working out? Are you going to the gym? What do you do for your exercise routine? Well, I don't have one. So I don't know what the answer is, but when I do, and it's interesting, one of the women who's a very good friend of mine, she at least twice a week goes to the gym at a crazy hour, like at 5:30 in the morning. But she knows if she doesn't do that, she won't be able to fit in for the rest of the day. But she's made a conscious choice because she's traded off getting her kids up and running to school. But that's worth the trade-off for 2 mornings a week because she still needs to take care of herself. Right. So when we create our actions and find ways to hold ourselves accountable, I don't know what the answer is, but my observation is we have a lot of incredibly dedicated moms and dads who are have yet to find a way or something to create that time for them. And a mom and dad also needs an activity. They need the fitness. They need something. And I think we live in really challenging times where parents are finding hard to, or feeling guilty about doing that for themselves. But once again, how do you find time to put on your oxygen mask? You can then be a good parent. And so I observe that trade-off with women and men a lot lately. Yeah. Very challenging.
Yeah, I agree. I think that some of these principles, like, they need to be sat down, like with a couple, and like, figure it out, like what are my 2 mornings a week or my 2 evenings, and I'm still going to go play hockey or whatnot, like, because often I really do hear you and feel for it. I know that one of the things that I do with and I'll just throw it out there as another potential tool, sometimes with a woman I'm working with, I'll just ask them if I sense that overwhelm right from the get-go. Yeah. If that's the first energy I feel is complete overwhelm, the first thing I'll do is I literally ask them to write out on a sheet of paper, like draw a circle and write out everything that's on their plate. Like, I literally want them to just puke everything that's on their plate. Yeah. And write it out. I want to see it. I want to see it all. I just want to see it. And then I ask her to go through a process of just to kind of have a look at it, just be aware of it. And same thing, you kind of mentioned it. It follows the D's. It's like, can you delegate it? Can you ditch it?
Yeah.
And can you delay it? Is it a thing that you have to do right now? And if it's really, really important, ask yourself, with all of those things on your plate, why is this on my plate? Why is this? And have an honest answer. And then if it's really important, then just do it. Right? So those are the pieces for me. You're either going to delegate it, you're going to delay it, you're going to get rid of it. It's actually not important anymore. And if it's really important, you're just going to do it and get it done. Just get it off your plate. So I in terms of prioritizing,
great tool.
Sometimes like that's where you need to start. I've got one more question, and then I'm going to open it up for a few minutes for, I hope anyone on the call, if you have a question, I hope you'll kick in. So let's hone it right in, and I'd really like to talk about daily for a minute. I'd like to talk about daily actions and decisions. And I'm wondering if you have just things that you do, either you can repeat them or go into them a little bit more around accountability tools or tricks that you might use. How do you just keep consistent on a daily basis to keep that practice going day after day?
Well, this spring, for the first time ever, I started working out with a trainer in a gym. I was noticing with a lot of my tech members, for example, they had this great routine that was working. And there was something about knowing someone's waiting for you at the gym. And if you text them that you're going to be late or you need to change it, they're there to reply to you. But that has made a big difference. And also realizing I don't have the expertise and the skill set and the knowledge of how to design a workout. It's not where I play. But Allie from 1621 Club in Regina, I have to give her a shout out. She really has been such a huge accountability person for me to actually go there, and that's made a huge difference. I myself have a coach that I engage every now and then just in my own practice. Working with you as an Amplify candidate has kind of helped me practice my quarterly goals, like my 90-day rocks and what I'm working on, and you as well, to help give me some help with things I've wanted to work on, like publishing articles. That's been on my to-do list for years. I realized I needed help with someone who's got some experience and skills that I don't have. So accountability is reaching out to people who have more expertise in something than you do, and recognize you don't have to be the expert of everything. Surround yourself with people who bring that expertise to the table and then use it. The definition of accountability has a word in there that I think is really critical. It's called answerability. And when you have someone to answer to, they're there to listen to you, and I love your words, they hold space. That's having an accountability partner. Someone who's going to listen to you. They want to hear how you did. If you made it, what made it work? Way to go. If you didn't make it, what got in the way? And I think having an accountability partner or an accountability peer group is critical. Accountability is neither good nor bad. It's what we do with it that makes a difference. I know some of my previous experience was more negative. When people say, but I'm going to hold you to account. Well, no. Find someone with that answerability vibe, or someone that's really got no skin in the game, but your success. And I just want to hear you tell me how you did. I'm going to text you on your app. It's all I want to know. So I'd say that's actually totally critical for that piece on accountability. Get a system, figure out what works for you, whether it's a peer group or 1 or 2 people in your life. I mean, there are certain things I'll talk to I'll let my husband know I'm working on. And then the other things I actually tell one of my sisters or a friend, so you don't have to carve out everything to the same person. And then you yourself offer to be that accountability partner for someone. And really ask that question. I know Brené Brown says we're hardwired for connection. And I think that's why accountability and answerability work so well when you're driving towards an action, because you want someone to ask you and pay attention to where you're going and what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to ask one question and that's come in to you, and then I'll check in on my daily framework as well, because I think you nailed it. Like the thing is, we need a system. Like we can't think that, like, why would we think that we don't need a system, right? And so one question that has come in is, Linda, where do you find you need to set up boundaries? It's actually a question about boundaries. And then related to that, how do you personally deal with overwhelm? I'm wondering, she laughs. Just wondering.
I never do. Daily. Overwhelm, that can happen. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes it's having a lot on my plate, or sometimes it's getting nervous about something I have to do. Overwhelmed with the pressure to make it a good experience for somebody. The question that two things have worked for me. I ask myself the question, Linda, what is the worst thing that could happen? And then I think about that. Like I just sit there and I don't rush it. I think about, okay, well, what is the worst that can happen? Okay. So if that happens, what would I do? That's okay. And then what would I do? That actually, and we've had some, pretty, difficult experiences in our family, over the years. And so when you have loss and difficult challenges, gosh, that question puts it in perspective. Like, chill out, Linda. And the other ththing, I have the Breathe app on my Apple Watch. And sometimes I can trigger it and I'll breathe. My yoga instructor, Diana Bai, has been awesome for that. Really think about your breath. That actually takes the stress and the overwhelm. Like our bodies are hardwired to fix this for us. You just have to use it. And what really grabs it for me is sometimes the Breathe app will just kick in on its own. And I think, oh yeah, it's my heart rate. They probably, my watch is probably saying, we need to tone it down. And boundaries, when I set an action or a goal, something I want to do, I find what can be really useful is if I ask myself, what's going to take me off my game? What's a barrier? What's something that's going to get in the way of me achieving this? And it might be managing the expectation of someone in my family. How do I set the boundary there? So I try to think about that right up front, and then I decide, well, what am I going to do about it? I don't wait in reaction to it to happen. I try to think about what that's going to be. And I find it also really healthy to talk to a trusted person in your world about how they define boundaries and then what they do about that.
Yeah, I think setting boundaries and keeping boundaries it's kind of like, I view it like muscle building. Like it's something that you have to continually do. You have to continually check in with it.
A little super short example here. I have a home office. I'm not in here a lot. I'm usually with clients somewhere else, leaders, tech members, I'm away. But whenever I'm in my home office, I'm not at home, I'm working. So my husband and I have this interesting conversation because when he works, he's on the client site. So, Linda, you're home today. Okay, well, so I'm like, no, I'm not. Actually, I'm working. Do you want me to send that service person over to your office? So I try to laugh at it, but it's moments like that where that's an example of, no, I'm actually not accessible.
Yeah.
I'm not at home, I'm in my office. So sometimes the humor can help too.
Yeah.
I took from one of our favorite bed and breakfasts that we like. They had this beautiful "Do Not Disturb" sign, and I took it with me and I hung it on my office door. So that was my polite way to say to my dude.
Yeah.
You know. And boundaries. When I leave my office at night, I close the door.
Yeah.
Work is done. And if any of you have a home office, that physical experience of closing the door, and then when you walk by it in the hallway, you're not at work for the rest of the night. That's another 2 examples of boundaries that I've had to learn as someone who has a home office.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Well, and really great. I'll just touch on boundaries just for a quick sec. Like, first of all, opening. Like, if there's a couple of things that I do in terms of open, there's actually a couple of stretches that I'll do before meetings or before the start of my day to open up some of my chakras. And like, that's yoga for you, right? Like your sun salutations, or just taking your arms behind your back and just rolling your shoulders back and down and opening up your chest, just opening, being very open for your day. And breathing.
Maybe we want to do that now.
Right? Like just being open. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes that, you know, you've heard me say is just reminding myself that magic happens in the periphery. So what if every single encounter and interaction and exchange that I had today, I just tried to come to it from a place of being open and expecting magic. That's what takes things, I think, from good to great. And then in terms of closing, I love the closing a door. I'll share with you something I learned when I used to do a lot of personal one-on-one training. And that was like a ritual, literally a ritual to let go of everybody else's energy that you might have taken on. So like, whether it's like every day before you come home or before you, you know, really go fully into your house, you know, people have different rituals where they'll shake it off. Like they'll literally shake off anybody's energy, you know, from the day. Some people shower, you know, like have other people just have little rituals that they'll like let everything be cleared before they'll go in and, you know, be with the family. So they're not bringing energy in, you know, from one to the other. And the last thing that I'll just say, and then I'd like to open it up for a couple of quick questions, is just on a daily basis in terms of accountability and how you want to be. 3 things come up for me. The first is tune in. The second is check in. And the third is attitude before action. So
nice.
Tune in, I learned from my husband. He takes time at the beginning of every single day to just tune in. How am I feeling today? What's going on for me? How do I want to feel? What do I need to do to feel that? And just, you know, tuning in, checking in. As I mentioned to you earlier, you know, I literally check in with my amazing accountability buddy and commit to what I'm really prioritizing for the day. And attitude before action. Just making sure that, you know, not only am I going to get stuff done today, but what do I need to do? What's the attitude I need to have to fully enjoy it, to get the most out of it, you know, to have some fun with it, because we know we'll get it done. We're hardworking women. We know we're going to get it done, but how do we have fun while we're doing it? And so we have time for a couple of questions, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody that wants to unmute themselves, or I might have to do it for you. I don't know. I don't think so. Kathy, do you have a question? I'm going to unmute you.
Actually, I'm on my phone, so I'm hoping you can hear me.
Yeah, can hear you fine.
Okay. Because my audio doesn't work on my thing. So my problem is, this is my office.
Yes,
right?
it's
This is my
lovely.
living room.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and this is where I work. You know, I don't have a space that I can close off. So I'm always working because
Right.
I live alone too, right? So it's like, what are you doing? Guess I need to finish this or whatever. So I have a hard time making that break and saying, okay, do something else. And I'm really good. Like, I have my handwriting and I've got lots of activities. I do lots of good stuff. And the green is all, you know, my stuff because I don't have kids. So that's easier, right? But when I'm in my living room, I feel like I have to be working all the time. Or ish, right?
Any thoughts, Lynn? It's a physical space
Yeah.
question.
Well, Kathy, what caught me actually was the last sentence you said. I don't have kids, so it's easier.
Yeah.
No, I would just kind of honor yourself a little bit here and not set up the expectation that because you don't have kids, that this should just be easy, because that's not how it works. So, and I think I don't have children, but I would never, my time and my desire to improve things like yours is just as valuable. So, maybe I'm just offering you just a little opinion there. Yeah. Are you wanting some physical separation from work and personal?
Well, yeah, you know, it's a barrier. Obviously here is a barrier, right? It's like, no, you stop working at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and you do other things, right? Whereas it's like, no, I got to get, this should happen. This has to happen. Let's keep on doing. And it'll be 7 or 8. And I may have the TV on, right? You know, for company, you know, but I'm still physically working while I'm going through my day. You know,
what would you rather have?
you know, it's just before, when I had a job that was someone else controlled, you know, you were done, you left there, right? You know, and now you were not working. And, you know, since I've been working out of my home and I have more control over what I can do, right? And yet I don't do it, right? You know, I spent less time in my garden this year than previous years. Stuff like that. It's just, you know, it's like I feel guilty if I go shopping in the afternoon, because you're not supposed to be shopping in the afternoon. You're supposed to be working, you know, or something to that effect, right? It's more in my brain than.
Well, the struggle is real. You know, my quick idea would be find out when you have optimum work time. Maybe you're a morning person or a night person, for 1 week, and try it in small chunks. Work when you know you're at your best. And then the rest of the time is for you to decide how best to feed what you need to do, whether it's gardening or whatever, and don't feel guilty about it because you control your schedule.
Yeah. I love that. And just try it for a week. And the only other thing I would add, one aspect of work is what we literally get done on our computer, but an equally important aspect of work is how attractive and magnetic we are in our work to others in the world. And so I'm just encouraging you to think about the things that you love to do and that keep you healthy and strong are just as an important part of work as who you are, because when you meet someone, you want them to like leave going, holy crap, like what's up with Kathy? But whatever it is, she's on fire, and I want to be part of what she's up to. And that comes from like a cultivation of lots of cool activities, like your gardening, my horseback riding, you know, what you love to do for fitness, and it's all of those pieces. So one important aspect of work is what we're doing on the computer, but that's only one. And there's a lot of others that make really cool entrepreneurs and leaders. So I'm gonna invite you and challenge you to think about all of the components of work. And and Christina, same thing. You know, she pipes in, love the idea of managing your energy instead of your time, because time will take care of itself.
Right.
Great reframe.
One comment I do get from people that I see, they say, wow, you're happier, right? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Good
I am
stuff.
happier, right?
Right?
You know,
Yeah.
so it's a balance of like what
Totally.
you got to do, and
Yeah. And it's a balance, and that's why we had something like today. It's a balance that we're always working on,
Yeah.
improving on, keeping each other accountable on. It's not anything that we've mastered. So I want to respect our time. I know we've got other things to get onto. Thank you for participating today. Thank you, Linda, for being here as a co-facilitator. And to those of you, I think all of us that are live on the call, we will see you all next week at our accelerator. And